Hello, it is me, the Crimson Angel 100, here with you on Thursday with the Oncers. Now, I know for the past few weeks I have not been showing my face. I've been hiding behind the cloak of anonymity, but lately I've been doing vlogs and stuff on my main channel, showing my face, so I figured I'll get back to doing it here again. Anyway, enough with that boring intro. I have a lot to talk about in this episode. I have bullet points, I have fan art, I have things I want to talk to you about, and I also have some questions that need to be answered that were kind of a little question mark popping up on my head. I'm thinking, that's interesting. So, first things first, even though I had a theory, well, first off, speaking of theories, my Hook Ursula theory was way off. I'll own up to that. And it's okay to be wrong. I'm not going to say, whatever. My theory was wrong. And that's okay. That's cool. But my fellow Oncer Banksy predicted that the Robin Regina scene was actually a dream sequence. And I commend you on that being completely right. That was nicely done. Now, I have to say, the whole Rumpel-Killian thing, I had a theory that he's going to be under the, underbelly of trying to figure out what the heroes are doing. I'm kind of glad they kiboshed that in the first 10 minutes of the episode, where they figured out that Gold has a dagger and not Killian, and it was Rumpel-Killian in disguise. So, but I just didn't like that Belle wasn't the one that actually figured it out, then connected the dots. It was Emma that connected the dots, that you gave it to Gold. I was thinking, you couldn't at least do that, Belle? I mean, anyway. We do, however, find out in this episode what exactly Hook did for Pan, because they kind of alluded to this in Season 3, but they never really said anything. A lot of stuff they alluded to in previous seasons that they never said anything to, but I'll move on. Because, oh, I'll never work for you again. He basically just, got supplies for Pan. Okay, it's logical. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying, kind of anticlimactic, if you ask me. I thought it was going to be something a little more dramatic. Oh! It was like he just basically goes to the Enchanted Forest and gets some sweet cakes from time to time when he has a hankering. So basically, Pan converted Hook to making him do runs to Walgreens to get him some sweet cakes. But okay, let's move on. But the only thing that kind of made me weird about that is I was thinking, Pan, you're supposed to be like a rough and tumble survivor. You can't survive in the woods without certain supplies. I'm like, okay, let's move on. Now I have to say, the lineage of Ursula was a little confusing, because I'll get into the ending of the episode later, but they kind of turned young Ursula into being the original Little Mermaid, especially when they, at the very end, you wanted me to be your Little Mermaid. That was a nice little nod. And she was a daughter of Poseidon. Her father, that was Poseidon. He said his name was Poseidon. And if you don't know Greek mythology, if you don't follow mythology, you would know that Poseidon is actually the father, and he has a son, Triton. And Triton is the one who is the father of Ariel. Going by this lineage, we would assume that since Poseidon had Ursula and Triton, they would be siblings. And then, of course, if Triton has Ariel, Ursula and Ariel will be aunt and niece. But the thing is, none of that was mentioned, so I don't know if Ariel's even connected to this family. She's probably not related at all to Triton. I don't know, and that's what kind of infuriating me with that little snippet, But I did kind of like the twist. I don't know. I kind of was iffy about this episode. On one hand, I liked it. Other hand, I was iffy. On one side, I liked the story, because this is how I kind of felt about the overall episode as a whole. I felt like almost felt like this was the initial backstory that they wanted for Ariel back in Season 3. This almost felt like this was the backstory I wanted for Ariel to have back in season 3. Like with, it was a beautiful episode. I loved it. But the thing is, since they were trying to fulfill the fan dream that Lana have, who was, who plays Regina, to play Ursula, they kind of crisscrossed Ariel with Snow White and Evil Queen, and then thusly they probably had this story that they really wanted to do, but then they're like, let's just put it on the side. And then they're like, you know what, we have Ursula's backstory we haven't done, let's give her this backstory, make it this interesting twist, which I thought it was a good twist, that she was the original Little Mermaid, but it just raises a lot of questions. Is she or is she not related to Ariel? And of course the fact that now there's this Ursula was another bait and switch Ursula. I'll explain. Regina, she pretended to be Ursula, and that was not the real Ursula that Ariel encountered. Then this Ursula, we're like, okay, great, we're gonna finally have Ursula. Wrong. She was a mermaid named Ursula, and she was named after the original Ursula that was the goddess of the sea or whatever. So this Ursula was not the real Ursula that was the one that told Regina, don't impersonate me again. So there's another Ursula floating around somewhere that is worshipped as a goddess in Prince Eric's kingdom. So somewhere down the line, another Ursula is going to pop up and be a villain. But I'm tired of these bait and switch Ursulas. Although, this was a good episode. Now some people may be a little confused as to Killian and Ursula's connection. Because, well, not that, but in the sense of the age. And I'll explain in case anyone's confused, because Ursula was very young when she knew him, probably about a teenager, or looked about a teenager, and he was barely 100 years old. He said for nearly a century was getting revenge. And he's about like 200 or 300 years old now. So some people will be like, well, how is she... According to mythology, and also the original written version of Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid, mermaids are actually immortal creatures. So, the fact that they kind of alluded to this really makes me happy, because it kind of brings me to the fact that Ursula is possibly immortal, and maybe even Ariel. And if anyone's confused, well, in the little animated movie, she says she was 16. It's very possible that 16 could be her age in mermaid years. That she could be 16, but like that, how in dog years, they're like 2 years old, but you calculate that somehow, and then they're actually really something else. I don't have a dog, so I don't know the actual numerical thing of how to do that. So I think that's how it is with mermaids. It's like they're like 16 or whatever age, or 18 or 20 something, but then it's really, that's their age in mermaid years, and then you calculate that by however 100 years they are. So it's like they're 100 and something. So it could be possible that Ariel is a few hundred years old, and this version of Ursula is a few hundred years old, but, they haven't really said it. We have to assume that. Now, I have to talk about it. Ship in a bottle. Okay. Visually, it was clever, ironic, and funny. I could buy the fact that Ariel was probably swept into magic, being trapped in the bottle. I could buy that. I could buy that they made a serum from Wonderland mushrooms to make it grow again and make it its full size, and Ariel got free from it. I could buy that too. What I can't buy, however, is Elsa was the one that did it. Okay. I know I said in my main channel of whatever, of I want Elsa's two powers to grow and explore and stuff. How do you go from ice to randomly shrinking ships into bottles? The two don't go together. I mean, especially for Arendelle, in the Once Upon a Time version of Arendelle, magic is very rare. So, and Elsa, for all we know, she can't cast spells. She just does her ice magic, which is something that's like, kind of like an X-Men ability. It's like she just has that ability, but she doesn't really use it like magic. It's just kind of, she just has that ability. So the fact that Elsa was the one that did it was just kind of a random thing. If Elsa did it, I would have... If it was a giant iceberg ship, I'll be like, okay, Elsa did it. I could buy that. And if Ariel was frozen in there, I could buy that too. But randomly shrinking it to a bottle? Honestly, I think that was just because it was a cheap way of having it without having the ship be there, and they said, let's just think of a lame excuse to magically... Any plot point, they're just going to say it's magic, and that's how they're going to explain it, which is frustrating, but... It's magic! It's shrunk in a bottle. It's magic! It's like... It just didn't make sense that that Elsa would shrink the ship in a bottle. It would have made more sense if it was frozen on a block of ice. That, to me, is Elsa, but not that. Speaking of Ariel, she came in, saved Killian, swam in, gave a pearl of wisdom, and just swam away. We didn't see her again. But what she said was very insightful, because she said, because Killian was like, maybe they're right, villains can't get a happy ending. And Ursula was like, well, maybe villains go about getting it the wrong way. And I was thinking, thank you, Ariel. You should have said that to Rumpelstiltskin, because that's something that he's not getting, that he wants everything. That's a whole separate conversation. But I'm going through all my bullet points right now, because I've talked about a lot. Then I'll get to the fan art at the very end. Now, Ursula mentioned that she was banished to our world. Of course, that makes sense to an extent, because she was not in Storybrooke either time. And she was in the outskirts of Storybrooke. But the question is, when was she banished? Because although she is a mermaid and she's immortal, I could buy that. She was banished to a world without magic. So, thusly, her immortality wouldn't sustain to an extent. I mean, if she's 100% mortal. Unless her immortality still worked, and that was like her base power that she had when she was banished to our world, I could buy that, but, you know, the question is who banished her. Was it her brother, Triton? Because I don't think Poseidon would. I'm saying Triton might have her brother Triton might have banished her to our world. That's a little theory that I have that could probably just float away. Before I get to the twist ending that they had, I have to talk about the whole thing with Ursula, and how I thought this almost felt like a goodbye episode, where she got her happy ending, where she got her voice back, and she got reconciled with her father. It almost felt like she said, I got my happy end. It almost seemed like she was like, I got my happy ending, peace out, you can handle this all on your own, because I'm going back to the sea. And I'm thinking, you should kind of help them out. I mean, yeah, she told them what Rumpel's plan was, that Rumpel wanted to corrupt Emma, but it's like, you're just gonna leave, you're just gonna swim away after all that, you're not gonna do anything. That's what it almost felt like. Hopefully she'll pop up in next week's episode and, you know, help out the heroes, you know, now join the heroes or something. But it just looks like she's now gone. So now it's like, that's kind of the infuriating thing about having a lot of villains, a lot of characters in a story arc. Once you get to their actual backstory episode, they're either going to die or they're going to float away or something. So it's like, so I'm kind of nervous for Corello's episode, that she's either going to die or she's gonna just say, forget all of this, darling. Now, I did kind of like the twist that they had with the author, which was the author is actually trapped inside the book itself. I thought that was very clever, because it's like, because the question comes to mind. The sorcerer trapped the author in the book. What if the author isn't this great character that we're assuming that he is, or she, or whoever? What if this person is too powerful that the author had to contain them somehow? And of course, I'll have this brief little theory, and then I'll show the fan art, and then I'll close off. Which is, there were hundreds or thousands of blank books in that secret room. And of course, there's a whole thing of the alternate page, not ripped out. It was an alternate page of what if Regina went into the tavern. Now, this brings an interesting question and theories that a lot of fandom has been brewing, which is, what if there are a bunch of parallel fairy tale worlds that are filled of what if scenarios? What if Regina managed to get away with Daniel? What if there's another one where she didn't catch the curse? What if there's another one where Cora never gave up Zelena? It's like what if there's like all these different what if scenarios and all these different parallel worlds? This opens a whole floodgates of scenarios that could happen. That, what if Regina opens portals to all these different worlds and all these different possibilities? And it is just a theory, it's just a thought, and I'm gonna close off by actually showing my fan art that I'm not too happy of, but I'm gonna show it anyway. I dropped my pencil. So here is Ursula the Sea Witch, not to be confused with a sandwich. I know it's not my best, and I did it within like 20 minutes, and she has a very nice dress, I have to say. It's like a glittery green and all that stuff. The blonde beach waves. Of course, obviously this is black and white, it's not in color, but, she's holding the Nautilus shell. She's trying to get her voice back. I don't know why I'm singing. Okay. So, that was Ursula. I'm going to see if I could try and have more fan art. I know I said it last week, but, I was planning on drawing more, but, it was just a lot going on. But I would like to know what your thoughts were on this episode. What did you think of this episode? And what did you think of the possible thing of Ursula being the first Little Mermaid? And do you think Ursula and Ariel are still possibly related? I think there's a very slim chance that they still are, but they haven't really explored it. Because if so, Poseidon was actually Ariel's grandfather. I'm just looking at the clock on this thing, and this was a really long video, and I apologize. And I commend anyone who has actually sat through this entire video and listened to me gab on about this episode. But, a lot has happened. A lot has happened, and I had to say everything that I had in my mind. And I will close off on this and say, if you'd like to see more theories and recaps and things and fan arts of stuff on Once Upon a Time, please subscribe to the Oncers if you haven't already. Please like this video if you like everything that I've said, if it was entertaining to you in any way. And please watch Once Upon a Time on Sunday nights. See you soon.